Okay. So I had to start recording again because the microphone sounded so bad. But good morning. Hi. Hello. I have decided to start filming these videos because honestly, if I'm being real with you, I don't really have very many people to talk to in a in a kind of ethereal, metaphysical, deconstructing of the way my brain works kind of way in order to do better, in order to reconstruct some sort of semblance of structure and reality. I have a very hard time getting art out when things don't feel aligned in my personal life. And what I mean is like a structure or a path that I'm following. And it turns into this thing where when I want to create something without that foundation, it turns into this kind of shameful, guilty form of creation. I know it shouldn't. I know I should just be able to do that. So I'm trying to work through that because I need to remind myself, or I have to continue to remind myself, that the circumstances are always relatively the same, considering the advantages I have in my life in comparison to other people. And I'm just being like realistic based off of my situation, like how I grew up and the parents I have and kind of how where I come from. I'm very fortunate. So I have to remind myself that regardless of these uncertainties, what is certain is that I have been fortunate enough to be blessed with the tools to be able to navigate when the circumstances aren't at their highs. And in fact, at their lows, inevitably. I don't really want to lose the ability to see the other side of those circumstances. Oh, I have to exit out of this really quick. Um, Alexa, volume 0. And yeah, so I don't feel confident enough right now to see past those circumstances. So I just try, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Um, the frustrating thing I would say, a part of it is the people that I interact with on a consistent basis. There's varying levels of this, obviously, but I feel that I have to subdue myself to a certain extent in order to not appear as intense as I am. Unfortunately, sometimes I feel when I do that, this opposite effect happens because I'm kind of constraining myself. And when you constrain something, you put a lot of pressure on something. Eventually, that pressure has to release somewhere. And so then it releases inevitably in not the best ways and not in a controlled circumstance, not based off of instinct or discernment, just based off of impulsiveness and confusion and unsureness within a situation. Basically, fight or flight. I'm trying to get through that fight or flight mode. It feels like when I'm in most situations in my life, not because of the reality of the situation to an extent, but in a lot of situations in my life, I have this feeling of fight or flight. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what's going to be next. I don't know, blah, 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 and just a lot of different internal anxieties. And operating from that space of need and want and fear for not having, right? You end up making decisions that you might not normally make. And this is just something that I'm trying to break the code of in my own head because I don't have to feel that way ultimately. I don't want to lose a certain aspect of it because I need to make sure that I have a certain level of motivation and ambition to to proceed past what I'm currently dealing with, whatever that might be, creatively, relationship wise, friendship wise, family wise, whatever it could be. I just have to have the confidence and the willpower and consistency to push through that. Because that's something that I don't like about myself. I feel like I'm better at it now for sure, but I'm extremely impulsive. If I want something, I'm just going to do it. I don't like saying that, but it just is the way that it is. Not in an extreme way, obviously, but really it's substances. Like I kind of have a very, I don't know if it's addictive, but I think it's a compulsive thing. Like if I like something and I know exactly how it's going to make me feel, I figure out where that thing will go. So it's like cannabis. I don't know if that's the right word to say on YouTube, but whatever. Cannabis is something that I take, or I used to take, frequently to watch movies. And then it became this thing where it's like I have to have this thing to watch movies because it becomes this ritual. I don't like feeling that way. I don't like feeling compulsively attached to things that are so meaningless. Meanwhile, I have this passion for something that I'm percentage-wise not spending enough time on. That feels strange to me. It feels strange to have such a deep yearning to make things, but not really ever share them. And then I have to think about what does sharing even mean? Because I'm in a situation right now where I'm working for somebody who has access to just a bunch of people. And I'll be honest, I've talked to a couple of my friends about this. I always wanted to have like some sort of following for my art and that type of stuff. I know that might not be the prettiest way of saying I don't really care. I wanted a lot of followers. I wanted to be able to make money from my art and do it as a living and all these things. But I think I was too co-opted by the current thing at the time where it's like, it feels like everybody has to be famous. It feels like everybody has to have this persona. I have friends that that never had any sort of inkling for attention in the way that I would say artists do, okay? And content creators. And their content looks like that. I feel like we're moving into a time where people that aren't even making things are putting more images of themselves into the internet ether than the people who are actually doing stuff. Not that the people who are actually doing stuff should be putting things more out, but it's just kind of trippy because you've got these, I don't even know if I want to go to this situation. What I'm trying to say is it's odd that the percentages and the ratios in our society now are very strange. We probably all have more pictures of ourselves on our phone than our family members or experiences. I mean, look at some people's Instagrams. It's just, look at mine. Just a bunch of pictures of myself. Our family, our parents' relationships. My friend, I was talking to them and they said, I'm very thankful that my family made certain sacrifices for me to be able to have the comfortable life that I have as an adult and as a child. Or put them in a situation where they're able to craft a comfortable adulthood circumstance for themselves. And what they were talking about is their parents don't have the best relationship now. And he said, I realized at one point that during the time when they were raising me, and before that, because they had a lot of kids, it's very difficult for them considering their circumstances. I'm not going to get into that, but just believe me, considering certain aspects about them, it made it harder for them in society to be able to even have a family, to have kids, to make money. And they did that. And the way that they did that is they sacrificed their time and their energy by both working extreme amounts of labor. Okay. I don't know how else to say that. I'm sorry. It's very early in the morning. They worked a lot. And because of that, they weren't able to spend time together and develop a relationship with each other in the way that other people do. Mind you, that doesn't mean that it's impossible. Obviously, there's a lot of families that make sacrifices. What I'm saying is that, are you surprised that in society relationships aren't working that well, considering what I just said? Okay, considering that we're taught, especially within the nuclear family kind of a zeitgeist, you're taught you gotta have this nuclear family. Your wife's gotta be home, and your kids gotta go to this nice school, and then they gotta go off to college. They gotta get their own job. The nuclear family, ironically, is the opposite of family. It's creating this scenario where family members never actually see each other. I think that there's something odd about that, and I think it comes from large populations. I think a lot of problems come from large populations. I think that, there's too many people to be all using the same kind of things. Water, for example. I don't know if it's safe that we're all sharing the same water. Who knows? Art, for example, okay? I think that art is so, in some cases, okay? Trying to be positive. It's insufferable, okay? Art can be so overly saturated because of what I was speaking about before, where it's like being a musician. Right now it's kind of turned into this streamer thing, but the kind of vernacular and persona transcends all of that. It's all kind of the same thing, but it's like we're so pressured to be these kind of like influencing, charismatic type people. So you have a lot of people that are watered down versions of well thought, charismatic individuals, or people who actually, spend time at their crafts and their talents. Mind you, okay, that doesn't make them better than other people. So if I sound like that, I'm sorry, get over it. What I'm saying is that it makes them better at the thing that they're doing, okay? And there's a respect that comes with that naturally, And so when you see people online making things that, in my opinion, okay, this is just my opinion, they have no business making, they don't receive respect. The only attention they're getting is, to be honest, it's usually either some sort of patronizing encouragement or it's just laughing, it's like a freak show essentially, which I just don't know if that's good. We're living in the world. It's happening. It's around us. I can't do anything about it. I'm just here to speak my mind. Okay. I know I speak intensely about things. It's not because I believe that they have to change. I'm just explaining why I think things are happening the way that they are, playing out the way that I think that they are. To me, it just feels very natural. Not the things that are happening, the way that they're happening and the pattern that they're happening. I have this thought about society, people, pretty much everything aligns with this in my brain, at least for right now. I got to dissect it more. But essentially, the idea is that consciousness, right, as a whole, society, okay, our ideologies, our value system, our ethics system, all of these things. I'm probably not using the right terminology to explain this, but hopefully if you're a person who understands these things better than I do, you can kind of deduce what I'm trying to say. We are at this point where, just like a teenager, okay, think about this, a teenager, you grow up in your family's household, you pretty much know what they're feeding you intellectually, right? Ideologically, right? So whatever it is that you happen to come across, progressive, conservative, moderate, any of these things, by the time you're in high school is when you're really absorbing all of that information at a cognitive level, I would say. And then once you go out into the real world, college, which still isn't really the real world, you start to be able to find more people like you to reinforce those ideas or to challenge those ideas in a safe environment, right? Because you're all kind of on equal territory dealing with the same consequences to your actions. And then you get outside of that, and then you're faced with actual circumstances with real consequences. Not everybody. Obviously, some people totally have situations that are already more difficult, and they usually mature faster because of this. But I'm speaking, I guess, to people, I guess, relatively in the class that I'm in, because that's what I know, okay? You go through things that actually challenge these ideals that you are imbued with, and then you really are put to the test whether or not these things actually resonate with you and whether you actually believe them. And then you go through another process of redefining that, relearning that, and then things start to solidify once you start to decide what you want to solidify around like age 25 to like 28. It's like you're making these serious definitions about yourself, and simultaneously you're deciding with that in that moment, and then those characteristics are calcifying in your brain. Somebody told me that it's a lot harder to stop smoking cigarettes after you're 25 because your patterns start to solidify by that point. So I think that society is in this stage. I think that we went through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I know that sounds like a long period of time. It's not, okay? We went through that time. People started to become more aware that other people actually matter, that don't necessarily look like them. The extension of their empathy increased, right? What I believe is that it didn't. I believe that it did in a superficial way, which is helpful because it takes the knowledge first in order for the knowledge to be kind of dissected, ripped apart, put back together, and then acted out, internalized, and then executed. So I don't think that we are there yet. I think that we're getting to that point where we're able to actualize it. And that's why you're seeing people act out in extreme ways. Some ways aren't necessarily extreme, but they seem extreme to us. And then some ways are just clearly extreme. Violence, for example. So we're seeing this, like I said before, the constriction of something. Society, what they've done is they've tried so hard to put their hands around reality and craft it into something that they think it should be. And reality is not bound by man. Reality will do what it wants. And that's what it's doing right now. And people are extensions of nature and reality. Okay? So people are naturally going to do that as well. Everything is happening at the same time. It's all happening at the same time. And I think people are losing their minds right now. I'm not going to get too far into that aspect of things. I'll save that for another video. But yeah, it's just very difficult for me to kind of accept all of this and then continue making stuff knowing that it doesn't feel like anybody wants to hear anything like this at all. Almost everything that I listen to, okay, even these people that like kind of have this persona of like, yeah, stick it to the man. It's all so money based. It's also like, okay, let me give you an example. I listened to this podcast. It's about like 2 hours or something like that. I couldn't walk away from my phone without an ad starting. And if it wasn't an ad from YouTube, it's an ad from the podcast. And it's so wild because one of the ads happened after this person's talking about like, just, I guess, not self-preservation, what's the word? Like integrity and kind of like being independent and all these things. And it's just like, fine, I get it. They need money. But it's like, when does it stop? You know, they got 4 guys in a room, 6 different cameras. Do you need all of that for this show? Are all of you that funny? Do all of you have something to contribute to interviewing one person? What is this? What is this? It's like, I see so much. I like production, okay? Obviously, I like aesthetics and things like that. But I like it for the sake of that, not for the sake of just overdoing something to make it look nice. I think that, and this is just me, I think it's more useful to have intention behind what you're filming, behind the way you're making your art. I think that a lot of art, and this goes to what I was saying before about everybody kind of just making things. I think a lot of stuff becomes so stale because there's no intention behind it. It's just a product that's being crafted based off of another product, a dilution of something. It's that band. What was that band? The Lawrence something. It's like people hated that band so much, at least people that listen to music that isn't just purely, I guess, like popular music, because it's a watered down version of something that is very good and like soulful, even though that's kind of subjective. Um, I mean, but if you were to hear the music that they're inspired from, you would see how what they are making sounds like a kids bop version of that. Similarly to, I would say, Childish Gambino, in my opinion, way less diluted, but nonetheless, it is. Childish Gambino's album is very much a vestige of something that existed long before him and much better than him, which is why that album is like fun to listen to, but it doesn't really, for me personally, it doesn't hold any sort of like spiritual or medicinal weight. It's just dope. That's it. Which is sick. That's awesome. That's really good. But I think that as a whole, society would benefit from so many people not making so much art. That's what I'm trying to say. It's annoying. But that's just my personal opinion, okay? And like I was saying before, it's just another sign of these paradigm shifts that seem like shifts when in reality they're all kind of these same things that are happening, which is like a person rises to the top and everybody wants to be like that person. And in doing that, they kill that identity, and then that spurs out a lot of other identities. And it's happening with artists and people. It happens with movies and art. It happens with politics. You know, it happened with culture to an extent. Everything got so woke that people eventually pushed back against that. I think some people are realizing that they pushed a little bit too hard. When you really realize that the people that were fighting for things, think about this. The people that have been fighting so intensely the past 8 years are the people that literally in the past 8 years have lost none of their rights at all. Just think about that. And they think that they're losing. They think that there's somebody against them when they're the ones who have maintained all of the rights they had before the last 8 or 12 years. They've had them and they've still had them. In fact, they probably gained more rights. And so what I'm concerned about is that I think because of this, we're moving into a situation where we're going to have zero rights at all. But who knows? Who knows? I don't know anything about this stuff. I just watch and I observe. I feel like we're accidentally being pushed into a corner. But who knows? Who really knows? I don't. Actually, I do. I think that most definitely the next 8 years are going to determine how honest people are. I think that if shit actually starts to hit the fan, you're going to see how people actually feel because they're going to be forced to be in a situation where they can't hide what they would actually do in said situation. But who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that people are so juiced up from the unpredictability of what could happen to an extent that they want something to happen. It's like that nothing ever happens meme. Yeah, I think that nothing ever happens is really, in my opinion, in my stupid opinion, another example of our inability to see things outside of our bubble, because a lot of stuff is happening. It's just not affecting the people who, when it does affect, things actually change. So when it does, that's when we're going to see things happening like martial law and stuff like that. Like when that starts to happen, I think people are really going to start saying, "Oh wait, what are we? Oh no!" You know what I mean? Oh dang it! Oh dang it! Oh dang it! Let's go gambling. Let's go gambling. Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it. Aw, dang it. Literally, every American. Our parents. Us. Our grandparents. Our politicians. Our entertainers. We are taught to be, what's the word? Risk adverse? No, risk adverse would be somebody who doesn't take risk. We're risk takers. And I don't know if that's it's what we need to be doing. I think the problem is that people are living without discernment and instinct, and they're confusing instinct with impulse. That's what I feel. I feel like common sense has turned into problem solving when it's not. It's the beginning of problem solving for sure. You can make like relative assumptions and conclusions about something, right? With common sense. But if you're really trying to pull something apart and understand it, you have to do a lot more than that. You have to educate yourself. You have to pull apart what you're learning and put it back together. You can't just memorize something and that's it. Oh, now you believe it. Now it's good. Now it's going to work. No, you have to figure out what it is you believe and why you should believe it and why you believe it. Intention matters. Intention matters. This is why music that gets so popular so fast and then disappears so fast is because there's no intention behind it. And after the fact, you really realize that, you know? If I have a billion songs to listen to about the same thing, what kind of weight does that subject matter have anymore? If I've heard every sort of explanation and every sort of perspective of that thing, I'm tired of music about being horny. I'm sorry. That's just an example. But it gets really tiring when every... It's really wild. You have people that think that America is too sexual, and then you got people that overly sexualize America, and then both sides complain. It's very confusing. In my opinion, and I don't want to get too deep into it right now because I'd have to like articulate myself better, but it's such an example of how much we crank ourselves with something and expect something else to happen. You know, it's bizarre to me. It's bizarre. I feel like our society is a contradiction. I don't align with any of it anymore. I think that everybody has been putting on tribal kind of uniforming signifiers of, oh, I'm on this side and I'm on this side. And why don't we just use our brains collectively together to figure out better solutions and then let people just do their own thing? If anything, let everybody just do their own thing. And the people that actually have decent ideas, start doing something. Please start talking to people. Get your voice out there. Because I'm not smart enough to do any of this stuff. I can't do anything either, to be honest. I can just talk about these things, and I'm trying to figure out a way to get people to think a little bit more, because I don't have any answers to anything. Clearly, obviously, I'm not portraying that. But I do feel that I want to do anything I can to help people to deconstruct the way they think about things and then reconstruct. You can't stop at deconstructing. This is the problem. People want to just rip things apart and they don't know what to piece back together. That's why like ultra conservatives are able to kind of like avoid scrutiny in certain ways and kind of like just power through things because they have a very well-defined mission and directive on what they want. And the left doesn't. Come on. You know? They might know how to say they do, but they won't be able to articulate why they actually believe those ideas. And you have to, if you believe in something like that, which I do believe at the root of that is equality, true equality. But people want all of these nice things, but do they believe in them? You know? Do these like, do people actually have empathy in the way that it's just thrown around so much? I don't know. I don't see that. When I look at society as a whole, I don't see empathy. I don't see love. I just see chaos and division and laziness. But hey, what do I know? What I know is that it's not necessarily people's fault. I think that on an individual level, people that are aware of these things that I'm talking about have to just start speaking up more and including themselves, because I know it's hard because you want to be a hermit. I do as well. But I feel that it's important to be a bit of fuel and environments to alter the environment, to change it, to mix it up a little bit. People need this. People need this. Everything is too stale right now. We need some sort of change. And I think that if we do this, if we actually create some sort of change, everyone will benefit. I believe that. I believe that opening yourself up more creatively and opening up your heart to different ideas doesn't mean you have to change completely. Nobody has to change. It's about taking all of these masks off, pulling the curtains back and saying, this is who I am, without all of these things that everybody's telling me I should be. This is who I am. Because none of this stuff is real. Not your name, not the place where you grew up, not your last name, not your school, not the alma mater, none of this stuff. None of these bands, none of this stuff is real. Okay? It's all just descriptors. It's all just labels and compartmentalizing things. Who are you? Who am I? I'm still trying to figure this out, but we can all figure it out together. Or not, and we could just watch it all burn, which is also fun. But I prefer to try to figure things out. Because my goal, at least I'm not anywhere near this, but my goal is to be able to live in a future where there's communities that thrive because of discernment and actual intent. That's what I want to be a part of in so many different ways. Creatively, family, friendship, jobs. It would just be so nice. But obviously, the world can't be that way. And a part of being an adult is learning to work on a team and work with people that are different from you. But I do believe that if everybody tried a little bit harder at recognizing that, then the effects would universally, mutually help everyone. I know it's something stupid and it's all very kind of low IQ analysis of things. And I know it sounds like love, but that's not what I mean either. I don't think I ever even used the word love in this whole conversation because that's just another word as well. But I do think that there is an element of understanding that needs to be extended amongst people in order for us to get past this point of divisiveness. Okay, that's all I'm going to say for right now. And I'm just going to post this because I was a little bit worried about not knowing what to say or sounding like an idiot. But even if I tried to sound smart, I would still sound like an idiot. Like people would just know because I'm an idiot. I just love making things. Okay? I just love making things. I love making art. Yeah. But sometimes I like to just talk. And I don't really have many people to talk to at this frequency and really a platform to be able to just stream in consciousness, let things flow. So that's what's happening right now. I'm just talking. I'm just giving you my thoughts. None of it's real. I'm not real. You're not real. Okay, bye now. Goodbye.